Joining us for this segment is Paula Harris. Paula is someone who specializes in finances and investment. She is with WH Cornerstone Investment. Paula, welcome to the program.
Kevin, I'm thrilled to be back on such an exciting night here on Monday Night Talk. Love coming to talk to you.
You know, I feel there's such value in speaking with somebody when it comes to our finances. And you don't know that you're in trouble until you need a dollar, whether it's an emergency, whether you need to replace a hot water heater in your home, or you need work done to your automobile, and then you go to check your bank, or what do I have for credit? And you're like, oh no. Talk to me about the importance of financial preparedness.
Oh my gosh, Kevin, financial preparedness is everything. As you may know, we do specialize in working with widows, and the average age of widowhood is 59. And unfortunately, so many people get caught by what we call this curveball. A curveball hits your life, you weren't expecting it, and you've got to react. So you could have something as tragic as a death of a spouse. You could have, a tragedy of losing your job. I think this past year, the pandemic really caught a lot of people by surprise, and being prepared is huge. And so I think today, helping people get some tips around being prepared is, I think, going to be really important.
Would you say probably the foundation of financial preparedness is one's mindset?
I absolutely think that, yes, having a mindset of I'm taking 100% responsibility for my actions, decisions, my beliefs, and my mindset, and making sure that you're not spending time blaming somebody else. Spending time blaming the government, the weather, the politicians, the pandemic. You ultimately are responsible for the decisions that you make. So if you hadn't saved, well, you probably made some choices. Sometimes there are people in situations where, they just literally are not able to save. But sometimes we maybe went out to dinner 5 nights a week, and we shopped at Amazon, 7 days a week. Those were decisions. And if you got caught not having enough money, you got to look and say, okay, could I have saved somewhere else? So absolutely, mindset's a big part of it.
Where does one start? I mean, is it too late to start if you are in debt, or can you start at any time?
You can start at any time. And it's interesting you say about being in debt. So one of the guys I went to high school with, he posted a picture last week of his daughter who had made the decision she was going to pay off her student loans, $54,000 worth of loans. She was going to commit to paying them off in 6 months. And she had one of those little letter boards, and she had it on there, and she had done it. Now we're talking, I don't know what she makes for money. I don't know her whole story, but she set a goal. That was it, what they call a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal. And when you set something like that, a big, scary goal, you start to align everything. You start making decisions. You suddenly go, do I want to go out to eat? Or you know what, I can cook at home, and I'm going to save that money. You can, at any point in your life, it's never too late. And the other thing is, Kevin, it's never too early. We have worked with a lot of our clients to help their kids start to save. Actually, one of the high school students right now, we just set him up with his own Roth IRA, a great tool especially for younger people, to start putting money in. The taxes have already been paid on the money. You put it in, it's going to grow tax deferred, and it's going to come out tax free. You do that for a 17-year-old, 20-year-old, that money is going to grow for 40 to 50 years before they need it in retirement. The power of compounding on that is just mind blowing. And then there are some ways that you could use it if they really needed to for education. But you're never too early, and you're never too late. Sometimes people, they say I'm too young, or they'll say I'm too old. Never the case.
I remember years ago when I was talking with someone about finances and what I should do. Should I put money in a savings account compared to maybe putting it on a mutual fund? And I was taught at that time, or shown, the rule of 72.
Yep.
Is a rule of 72 something that's still applicable to this day?
Absolutely, absolutely. Your money will grow, will double every 7 years. So I will say these days in a bank account, it's probably not going to double. It's going to double in the stock market. The bank accounts, one of the benefits of having really low mortgage rates, people can access houses, but the downfall of that is your savings in your CD rates and your money markets are next to nil, and inflation's going to eat away at your money. So you need to keep some, like we talk about an emergency fund. You really want to have 3 to 6 months of money in the bank in an emergency fund. That's really, really, really important. And people always want to invest that money. That money should not be invested, because if you have an emergency, you need that money now, and you can't take a risk of the market being down like we saw in March. However, your rest of your savings, you really should be thinking about putting it into mutual funds, exchange traded funds, individual equities. You want to put it into the market so that it works for you. The growth rates are so much better.
And people need to realize that it's not a sprint when it comes to investing in a money market. It's a marathon.
Right. Well, yeah, and into the market, the stock market. And the others, it's not a sprint. It is not, it is not something you should be gambling about. Taking hot stock tips that you heard from a neighbor or a friend or a brother, whatever, that is not smart investing. That is a form of I'll say, gambling. There's oftentimes those will pay off, but it's just like someone who goes to Vegas or any casino. They tell you about the wins. They don't remember to tell you about the losses. We as human beings tend to remember our wins sometimes more than we remember our losses. So I think you have to be very disciplined. Some of the things I think 2020 taught us is you take emotion out of investing. You set up a plan. You talk about doing something called pay yourself first. So you want to take money out of your paycheck. You put it right into that brokerage account or into that IRA or to that 401k. You take it off the top, you put it in, and you do it consistently month after month, paycheck after paycheck. And you just keep doing that. And when the markets, hiccup, we saw a big drop of what they call a V, and a V recovery. Most people, or many people that pulled out because they're based on emotion and fear, missed the return. All they got was a downturn. They didn't get the upside. So you have to take emotion out of investing, and you have to go for the long view. Again, if you were going to say, let's say you got a kid going off to college, you're a year or two out. You probably don't want that money invested in the stock market anymore. You want it to be in something very safe. You're getting ready to retire. You might want to be thinking about keeping a year of expected income out of the market, so that you have money and you don't have to dip in to sell anything. Otherwise, the market, set it, check it every once in a while, but do not get caught in the news and the noise of the day, and be strong and be unemotional about it.
And we're speaking with Paula Harris with the WH Cornerstone Investment. I want to go back to you talking about the emergency fund.
Yes.
Is there a certain amount that should be in an emergency fund, and how often should one pay into said emergency fund?
So, we talk about 3 to 6 months of living expenses. So if you have, I'll say a job that's harder to get another one, you're going to want that 6 months, or you have, a lot of overhead. You got a mortgage, you've got a bunch of kids, you've got a lot of expenses. You want that 6 months. You're single, you could move back in with mom and dad. The 3 months might be okay. It might be okay, but ideally it's 6 months. It's something you want to keep funding till you get it. You could do that. Some people can do that in one check. They have enough savings and they can do it. Others, maybe it's, you put $100 a week, you put $500 a paycheck. You want to keep that building up, and then put it in like a money market at the bank or the credit union.
Talk to me about the importance of saving versus spending. How important is it to keep an eye on your activity financially?
It's a big deal. So, well, let me reframe it a little bit. It's about cash flow.
Yeah.
So we have seen people who, making $350,000 a year, and they don't know where they're going to be able, if they miss a paycheck, they're in a house of cards. We've seen people making $70,000 a year and have a big savings account. So it's all about how you manage your cash flow. So making sure that you are properly saving for the future is key. It's living below your means. We live in a society today that wants us you know, to consume, to spend. Luckily we don't have as many billboards as some other states, but you drive into Boston, the number of billboards you see, it's to buy something. It's a way for you to part from your money. I think about, like in Braintree, you would see casino ads on these billboards. You as a consumer have to like defend your pocketbook and your decisions and say savings is more important than spending. I don't need to worry about what the Joneses are doing and keeping up with my neighbors. I need to provide for myself, my family, and make sure that my financial future is going to be as rock solid as possible. And it's hard because we want to live for today. These past few months have been challenging. I get caught up in it too. Like I want to soothe myself because I haven't been able to do as many things. So I might buy something extra or spend a little more on a bottle of wine, or, you have to become really diligent about where your money is going and keeping your expenses below your income. That's the secret to building wealth. You spend less than what you earn. People, it's like dieting, put less food in your mouth, and move more, but we make it hard on ourselves. So I would say, yeah, cash flow is king. Absolutely.
With today's technology, the one thing that we have that we can use at our disposal is automating. How important is automating?
Automating is everything. So we just started a new year. What you'll often find in a new year is people got a pay increase. So great time to think about if you're contributing to a 401k or an IRA, maybe you up that 1%. So first of all, if you got to be participating, if you're offered a 401k, 403b at work, you got to participate. At least you participate to the match. For those people who don't get a match, you need to participate anyway. You are saving on your taxes, a big deal. For those people who don't have access to a 401k or a 403b, you want to be using an IRA. And there's a regular traditional IRA, or there's the Roth IRA. The traditional, you're putting money in tax deferred, it grows tax free, and it comes out, it gets taxed. The Roth, money goes in after it's been taxed, grows tax free, comes out tax free. So but not everyone is able to contribute to a Roth because you can get capped on it. So one of the things you want to do, if you also, is find a way through the payroll company, whether your paycheck goes into your savings or checking account, set up either another savings or account where the money gets put over. You might say 10% immediately goes into funding into a savings account or to a brokerage account. You got to pay yourself first. And automating is the only way. I actually had a gentleman call me the other day. He's trying to pay off his college loans. And I think he was about 27. I said, well, why are you reaching out to a financial planner at this point? And he said, because I am not being disciplined about consistently paying those loans, and I need the accountability to make sure that happens. It's a pretty simple process. You just keep it automated. Like my mortgage, I pay an extra amount every time, it's automated. It goes right off every month, as opposed to me having to think about it. Because as humans, if we have to think about something, it goes back to that mindset, Kevin. We will find ways to justify why we don't need to do it, why we shouldn't do it, why this is more important. So that paying yourself first, automating, it's the secret to building wealth.
I'm going to offer my own insight on as far as an IRA. My accountant a few years ago suggested that I would gain a savings in my taxes by having an IRA. So I enlisted, he signed me up for a company.
Yep.
They take money out of my paychecks every week. The problem is that it's just money going in there and I haven't done anything with it. Am I a lost cause, or is there something that I can do to put this going into the right direction, diversifying? Do I trust the organization that he signed me up with and talk to me about fees
Yep.
that are incurred if they in fact are somebody who are helping to put my monies into different mutual funds.
So first of all, congratulations, you followed the advice of your accountant and you put money away. So not a lot, if you didn't choose that, then I'd say maybe you're a lost cause, but there'd be still time to change things. But no, the fact that you're putting money away, fantastic, absolutely great. You want to keep doing that. So now you've got a pool of money, you got something to work with. So, most of these brokerage houses these days, most of them are, I'll say, discount brokerage. If you're doing something like a Vanguard, a Schwab, a Fidelity, their trading fees have come down or are non-existent almost. So you don't have to worry so much about the fees, but where you do have to be concerned is looking at the underlying expense ratios. A lot of times we'll talk about using exchange traded funds because they have so low expenses in the product themselves. You could have a mutual fund that could charge you 1 or 2%. That's money that's not working for you. We try to avoid those types of mutual funds because then, the consumer's not getting the full benefit of it. So one of the easy things to do is to put money into what they call a target date fund. So, you figure out your age and you figure out, how many years to retirement. Most of us now, it's 66 or 67 is the Social Security retirement age. So you say, okay, for 67, all right, what's the closest date? They usually do them, at the O's or the 5s. So it'd be 2030, 2035, 2040, and you pick that one. That would be very diversified. That is being professionally managed, and it will, as you get closer to retirement, will take back the risk factor and we'll get into more conservative things. That's one very easy way to do it. And I'll say in a company like Vanguard, they have great products on their own. Feeling confident. They've always been, John Bogle was an incredible influence on the financial industry and created a very low cost, very consumer friendly company. And you can feel good about their products, but you always do look at those expenses, look at the fee to go in. Most people don't spend enough time looking at that, but that's a easy way to do it. And then there's other easy ways as well that, some of that gets a little bit more customized by what the person's doing and their comfort level. So I'll probably just leave it at that.
Little housekeeping here when we talk financial preparedness.
Yes.
The information that we provide, how often should we be checking to making sure that any information that we've provided, whether it's for credit cards, whether it's for banking, whatever it is, that all the information is 100% correct?
I think you are well served, probably, let's say once a quarter to look. As you said, using yourself as an example, I'll use myself as an example. I got an email this morning from the brokerage house that said, money just moved out of your account. And I went, what? Like, I don't remember that. Well, we had actually set up a donor advised fund and that transfer had happened. So when I went in to confirm it, I was looking at my addresses. Well, Kevin, I think I'm on top of things, but now statements all come electronically. I looked and I had moved about 4 years ago. My legal address was my correct one, but my mailing address was still my old one. I didn't figure that out because they're not sending me any mail. So that was a big thing. I was like, okay, even I'm in the industry and I got to keep remembering to check these things. So it's important to check. I did a women's financial challenge last month. It was a 5-day challenge. We tackled some small things every day. And one woman, she had shared with us that she had left her company. She'd been there a long time. Her 401k had technically, it had ended and she never took the time to roll it over. Somebody changed her address on that 401k and stole it, drained the account. She was no longer getting statements, didn't realize it, and she lost her whole entire account. She's had to deal with the feds because they tampered with the mail, so it's a federal offense, and she is having a huge amount of issues. So checking these things frequently is huge. I recommend to people, check your pay stub. I had a personal situation like 25 years ago where let's say I was putting $200 away. They only put $20 into the account. I caught it because I looked. We've had clients come in and say, yeah, I contribute to my 401k. All right, we're going to look at your pay stub. No, you haven't been contributing, but you thought you were. So verifying these things is important. Every once in a while, pull your credit report. Look, you can get free credit reports from the big three, TransUnion, and I'm blanking on the other names. Pull them. Look.
Equifax.
Equifax, thank you. Look and see. I'll tell you, I have Equifax. They don't update them all the time. I look and I go back and say, because I had a breach. Someone, I think in Massachusetts unemployment, there was a lot of breaches that happened in May. A lot of people were hit by that. And so I put Equifax on a monthly basis on my account to look, but they don't update their numbers all the time. So as a consumer, you got to be vigilant. You got to go look and verify. Big deal. It's a big deal.
Yeah, and if you're just tuning in, we're speaking with Paula Harris, and she's giving us some advice and tips in regards to financial preparedness. She'll be with us just for a few more moments as we're getting ready to wrap up this segment. It's interesting that you talked about the credit apps, knowing that we see so many data breaches that that are in mass quantity. Whether you have TJX having an issue or this particular company having a problem. How often should you be checking your credit score and your credit apps and checking for any issues with your credit?
Yeah, I think it's probably a good time to check it, a couple times a year. So, key times that I usually suggest people check things, and this is also checking your beneficiaries on your accounts. Big deal. On your investment accounts. You want to make sure that you've got named beneficiaries, people that are still in your life, people that are still alive. So great triggers, January 1, New Year, check them. Another great trigger, your birthday. Let's just take a look, make sure I'm in order. Tax time, another great time to look as well. You've got all your tax documents out, take a look then. Another time, I still think because we're so wired for those 12 years of school that we went to, back to school, great time to rethink these things. And my business partner and husband, Bill, he always likes to use the change your batteries, check your beneficiaries. So when we change the clocks, change your batteries, check your beneficiaries. When we do those 2 time changes a year, that's one of his triggers as well. So I think that's a big deal.
As we're starting to wind down and wrap up in a couple of moments here, anything that we haven't touched upon that you want to share with the audience, or anything that we have touched upon, re-emphasize?
Absolutely. So a little bit more on the beneficiaries. So beneficiaries are a great tool that each of us has. We'll name our primary beneficiaries and our contingent beneficiaries. So if something were to happen to us, money will flow easily. The other thing to think about is if you're in a relationship, like a marriage, you want to make sure you have accounts jointly owned. So, you have bank accounts. We've seen situations where, a paycheck is being deposited into a single account. That person passes away. The spouse no longer has access to getting that money in that account, and they have to go through probate because they never got their estate planning done. So you want to make sure your estate planning is done, that you can avoid probate. Probate during a pandemic, not a friendly thing to go through. Probably twice as long as you would normally see. So that's something to think about, is making sure your accounts are jointly owned. Another thing that can trip up, especially widows and potentially widowers as well, is credit cards. So Kevin, when we have, especially when we're married, we often, spouses will have credit cards in both their names. But so we think, oh yeah, I have a credit card and it's in my name. But credit card company only issues, there are very few that don't issue it this way, only issues to a single person. So you may be, Kevin Tachi may be the actual owner, and you may have your spouse have a companion card. But if you pass away, that credit card you can't use it anymore because that person's deceased. So what I've seen for a lot of women that, especially that have been stay at home, they don't have necessarily income in their name. And I've seen this for high net worth women, that live on like $4 million houses. And people, you have to go apply for a credit card. And guess what? When you don't have income, you're going to get a limit of like $300,
Yeah.
$500, which when you're accustomed to probably having a $25,000 limit, you can't buy anything, you're going to have trouble making ends meet. So making sure you understand who owns the credit card. And if you can, get a credit card that you own, registered to your credit in your name, so that you don't get caught in such a situation like that. So that's, again, part of that being prepared.
And if folks want to find out more, if they want to ask any questions after, taking part in watching or listening to this particular segment, how can they find out more about you?
Sure. We've got a great website, which is located at whcornerstone.com. We've got a bunch of downloadables on there. Actually, my business partner just came out with a book that you can see on the homepage. We've got workbooks, prepare if a curveball hits your life, one called Rebuild if the curveball hits your life. We've got how to decide on Medicare. We've got lots of different tools, and we've got a great newsletter too that people can sign up for that goes out on a monthly basis. Or you can follow on social media. We're on, we got a YouTube channel. We got about 50 videos out there, Cornerstone Quick Clips. Follow us on Facebook, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, all at WH Cornerstone.
Well, Paula, we want to thank you again for joining us for this segment and sharing this information.
My pleasure, Kevin. I really enjoyed it, and it's always wonderful to talk to you and get information to people that really can help change their lives. We just want people to be prepared, because curveballs come. The pandemic was a curveball, and we want people to be able to navigate that in the best possible way they can.
Again, we want to thank you for tuning in and enjoying a segment like this, and hopefully you found it, the information to be important and relevant. Until next time, have a good day.